This video is dedicated to Monumental Baser, who thinks I'm too much of a douchebag in my Hello I'm a Scientist videos. It's also dedicated to anyone who shares his opinion. If you don't like me being a douchebag, don't watch Hello I'm a Scientist, because that's kind of the point. Monumental Baser, if you're ever in my neighborhood, consider this a formal invitation to come on over and kiss my ass.
Greetings, I'm Chemist John Pendleton.
Greetings, Chemist Scientist John Morris Pendleton.
And these are part of a series of conferences about creation, evolution, dinosaurs, the Bible, UFOs, ancient man, Big Bang, ape men.
Wow! That sounds interesting! Wait, what?
Today we're going to take a look at the famous ape men. Now, in Mexico, we had a program a number of years ago that recently that I think would go good with this first transparency.
What is this, the early 1990s? You're not using a fucking transparency, moron?
If you see anybody here that you might know, it's just a pure coincidence. And actually we could ask the question like this fellow's asking, are there ape men in your ancestors?
I don't think that's what he was thinking about. But yes, my parents are so-called ape men, and so am I.
Your ancestry? Some of you might say, well, there's some that sure act like it. Now, one of the principles we're working on, there has two parts, that evolutionists are good at two things.
What two thing are evolution's good at, John?
Making up fascinating stories and drawing excellent pictures of things that don't exist.
John, I think what you actually mean is discovering fascinating stories based on the evidence, and drawing fascinating things based on the fossil record.
We have this skull, which has been found and pieced together. It's real science. What isn't science are the three pictures above. One looks kind of like a man, one looks kind of like an ape, and one looks like an ape man.
Am I to take this to mean, John, that your argument against evolution is that some artists suck in interpreting bone structure and applying that to the human face? Do you really think that shitty pencil sketches are what anthropologists use to place skulls along the human evolutionary line?
Where I live in Mexico, I found this page from a publication used by the Department of Education in Mexico. And what I've done is highlighted here on both sides of the page some of their key phrases. Let me read some to you. Appears to be, perhaps, reconstruction, reconstruction. It is thought, reconstruct, it's supposed. The other side says, approximately, approximately, reconstruction. We do not have very precise dates. We think, we calculate. Now let me ask you, does that sound like science?
We are absolutely certain. We read in a book. We know it for a fact because we feel it. This character in a storybook told us so. I know that I know that I know. Now let me ask you, does that sound like science?
Nothing of the sort.
Goddamn right.
Also, I want you to look at these three fellows that are here. Now, I don't have any prejudices. I've already told you I believe that every person is made in the image and likeness of God. Every one of us, our descendants, we're part of a big family that comes from Adam and Eve.
If we all come from Adam and Eve, but we never evolved whatsoever, why do we all look so different? And why are our looks based on our ancestry? Very interesting, John. Let me ask you this. If you were to draw God, which person would he look like? Would he look like all of us, or would he look like some particular one of us? What is the image of God, John?
But as I look at all three of these pictures here, I'm almost sure that I've seen these guys walking on the streets of Mexico.
John, is that true?
Well, of course not.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
But the way the artist drew them, it almost makes it look like people I've already seen. That's not science.
John, didn't we already discuss the fact that artist representations are not science? We talked about this in the last video. We've talked about this in this video. When the fuck are you going to drop this? Artist representations are not science. You don't need to continue to reiterate.
Now, my youngest son, when he was in the 6th grade of primary school,
otherwise known as Bible Belt University,
had this text made by the Department of Education in Mexico. It could be a text from any place in the world, because everybody copies everybody else, basically, when it comes to evolutionary thought. And we have here the Homo habilis, Homo erectus, Peking man, Java man, Neanderthal man, and cro-magnon man.
Oh, hey, John, I think you left out filet mignon man.
Now, the Homo habilis, that was just Australopithecine. But we want to look more in detail at the Homo erectus.
You said erectus.
Peking man, Java man, Neanderthal man. Now, cro-magnon man.
I could almost make a song out of that. Cro-magnon man.
He is so much like modern man that if we would just give him a good bath, shave him, put him in a suit and tie, give him a briefcase, put him in any business center, nobody would know the difference. He looks that much like modern man.
Well, that's fascinating, John. Way to talk a whole lot and never make a point.
Well, first let's take a look at Peking man. This is the cave near Peking, or Beijing, China, where in the 1920s they found burnt wood, stone tools, and cracked, smashed monkey skulls. Well, they put that all together and made not only Homo erectus, they also made Peking man.
Peking man is Homo erectus. That's why it's called Homo erectus pekinensis. I don't know what classification system you're subscribing to, but generally, when the genus is Homo and the species is erectus, it's classified as a Homo erectus.
Now, the use of fire and the use of tools is definitely a mark of man. We're the only ones that use fire. We're the only ones that make and use our own tools. Now, these cracked monkey skulls is only what was left over from supper. This might sound strange to you, but where I live in Mexico, we have these delicious brain tacos.
It doesn't sound strange at all, John. As a matter of fact, it goes a long way to explaining your own monumental brilliance.
There are a lot of people that eat brains today. There's people in other parts of the world, when they capture a monkey, they know that the flesh of the body is too tough. But they'll just cut off the head, take it home, put it on the coals.
What?
And when it's well enough cooked, they'll just split the skull open.
No way!
And eat the brains out.
Ew, that's so icky!
Now, it might not appeal to you, but it's a real delicacy for these people.
You're right, I'm sorry, that was rude.
But apart from being just bad science and analysis of this, the worst part is that after World War II, all of the evidence for Peking man was lost.
No, it wasn't.
We don't have any burnt wood, any stone tools. We don't have any cracked monkey skulls. Nothing.
I love this focus on the stone tools and monkey skulls as if that's what caused them to declare a new subspecies. The fact that we still have high quality casts of the original fossils, plus the little bits and pieces that have been found since, apparently hasn't entered your mind. But you gotta get to a fucking point soon, man, because honestly, Peking man isn't exactly at the forefront of the study of human evolution. So I'm left wondering why you're putting so much focus on Peking man when you could be focusing on something much more high profile.
And yet after over 50 years, this is still in the textbooks. That is bad science.
And in those textbooks, John, is it surrounded by those good science terms that you like to complain about, such as...
appears to be, perhaps, reconstruction. It is thought, reconstruct, it's supposed, approximately, reconstruction. We do not have very precise dates. We think, we calculate. Then we have the Neanderthal man.
Fuck you, John. You went on that huge tirade about Peking man and made absolutely no point. What a waste of my fucking time.
The Neanderthals are very famous, and we have lots of skeletal remains of them. One skeletal remain that was found before the turn of the 1900s, as I remember, was almost a complete skeleton. And when they put it together, it looked something like this. Kind of, you know, like it was a... they said, well, that looks like a monkey is going to stand upright like a human being. Yeah, that's it. And for decades, that was the prevailing thought, that the Neanderthals were monkeys coming up into an upright walking position like humans. Now, with the science that really is science, the electron microscope was made. And so they analyzed these remains of Neanderthal man and found that he was lacking three things. He was lacking calcium, lacking vitamin D, and that he had arthritis. He wasn't a monkey on his way coming up. He was an old man on his way going down.
You have no idea how much I love it, John, when you make claims that are just utter bullshit. I love how severely it weakens your case. I find it very amusing. I can't find one single piece of research even mentioning anything like this, particularly when it involves an electron microscope, but in fact even talking about vitamin D deficiency or calcium deficiency. So I can't find a single reputable source of this claim. And I mean, I didn't stop at the first page of Google results. I went through a few of them. And something like that, if I search Neanderthal man calcium or Neanderthal man vitamin D, you would think I would find this claim somewhere, don't you think? And not on page 125 either.
Also, with science that is real science.
So that last one was real science, was it? Real science being the type that's non-existent?
The human skull keeps growing. Now, again, from our authority, we have evidence that after the flood, that people still lived as much as 200, 300, 400 years. That's why the Neanderthals, so to speak, went extinct. Actually, they didn't go extinct. They were humans just like us, but they lived longer, and so their skulls especially, and their bodies got certain forms from their advanced age and growth.
Okay, I'm going to have to stop you there. If you're insisting on good science, do some fucking science. Don't take it from a fucking bedtime story. Otherwise, I'm just going to start making shit up too. The stars are made of glow-in-the-dark paint. We evolved from leopards. Fish are plants.
Another famous ape man is Java Man. In 1891, an explorer by the name of Dubois, a Hollander.
Are you thinking of Eugene Dubois? Where did you get Hollander?
Went to an island of the Pacific called Java. In that island, he was digging and he found a skull cap, definitely from some kind of an ape-like creature. At a distance of about 50 feet, he found also a human leg bone, actually the femur that connects to the hip bone. He admitted where he found the human leg bone, he also found 2 human skulls. But it was far more convenient, human leg bone, ape-like skull, Java Man. And it's still in the books today. Now, that's not only bad science, it almost borders on basically being a fraud.
At this point in the video, John, I would suggest that you reevaluate your decision to call other people frauds, because the number of claims that you've simply pulled out of your ass is staggering. And this spans across all of my videos addressing you. Now what you should bear in mind about Java Man is that more specimens have since been found. Why is it that creationists love so much to pick on the very first piece of evidence ever found for something? Why wouldn't you look into the subsequent findings? You don't even care that they were made. It's the same thing as if you try to refute the concept of evolution by natural selection by attempting to invalidate Darwin through quote mining. Nobody gives a fuck what Darwin said. It's the same with the guy who discovered Java Man. Nobody gives a fuck, even if he was a fraud. It doesn't matter, because the findings since have demonstrated it more thoroughly.
Next, maybe you haven't heard about Nebraska Man.
I'm not even going to let you explain this one. I'm going to explain it for you this time. Nebraska Man was originally identified based on a tooth, which is obviously quite premature. An artist created a drawing of Nebraska Man based on the proportions of Homo erectus. Obviously, when you only have one tooth to work from, that's not exactly accurate, and unfortunately, although it took some time, Nebraska Man's tooth was eventually found to not be a hominid tooth, but it belonged to an extinct genus of peccary. This is a good example of science's self-correcting nature. Misidentifications can be made, and they are. But because science is attempting to invalidate its own findings, eventually these are often discovered and corrected. And as I stated in my last video, they are not discovered and corrected by creation scientists, they're discovered and corrected by actual scientists who care about what's true. I find it funny that you would attempt to hold science's self-correcting nature against science, because it is at the core of why science works. I will give you the point that I know that you're going to make without even watching what you say, which is that it is extremely premature to identify an entire hominid species based on one single tooth. I personally find that absurd, and that's probably why scientists were interested in figuring out what this tooth belonged to, because the claim that it was from a higher ape seemed a little outrageous based on the amount of evidence that was available. In short, John, my point is, shut your fucking hole.
Now, not to lay aside lightly the female sector, we have the beautiful Lucy. Lucy was found in 1973 in Africa. They found, they say, 40% of her skeletal structure. She was very short. She was only about 3 feet high. But in order for her to walk uprightly, they had to go about another 2 miles further in that direction, 200 feet deeper into the soil, to find a kneecap so that she could walk uprightly like a human. And obviously it was from the same skeletal structure. It's things like this that show you over and over how bankrupt human evolution is.
Give me a fucking break, John. Would you stop flat out fucking lying and start putting at least a tiny little bit of fact into your statements? AL 129-1 was the first example of Australopithecus afarensis that was found. And yes, it was found 1.6 miles away from Lucy. It was not a part of Lucy. It had nothing to do with Lucy. Lucy's remains were scattered across the slope of a gully. They were not scattered over 1.6 miles. Not only that, but the identification of Lucy as a hominid species was based on the pelvis, femur, tibia, vertebrae, shoulder, comparison of the arms and legs. It was not based on the knee that was found 1.6 miles away. That's just fucking made up. I fucking hate when people do that shit.
Also, in Indonesia, in the part in Sumatra by Kerinci, there are reports from the natives that they have actually seen ape-like creatures about 3 feet tall that walk uprightly like humans. Maybe these are the last living Australopithecines, of which we have many fossils, but they're a species in themselves. No way in transition to becoming humans.
So the latest known examples of this species that we have are from 4.4 million years ago, and you think that they're still alive today? Really? Come on. Look, people claim that they've seen Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster and UFOs and ghosts and God, but there's no proof for any of it. There's no reason to believe any of it. I don't give a shit if people say they've seen a 3-foot tall monkey. I don't fucking care. What does it have to do with the facts? What does it have to do with the evidence? Unless you have thousands of people saying the same thing, and unless you're able to walk into the woods and see one of these fucking things, or unless you're able to produce a corpse of one, or unless you're able to produce a recent skeleton of one that isn't a fake, shut your fucking mouth. I don't care. Get your fucking evidence first.
One of the most painful things for human evolution has been Piltdown Man.
Go fuck yourself, John. This is another example of science disproving its own claims in order to advance the truth. So you can eat my fucking cock.
For years, the belief has been that man has evolved and that his brain capacity got bigger and bigger. But in Laetoli, Africa, they found these side-by-side footprints of apparently an adult, probably a mother, with a young child. But the volcanic ash there tests out at 3.7 millions of years old. So now they change their story and they make drawings where you have these human-like feet and above is an ape-like creature. So we don't know which way we really evolved. Again, they're trying to make up a story.
I'm not even going to bother to fucking research this one because I think I understand your angle now. You see, let's say they have some human-like footprints in 3-point-whatever-year-old volcanic ash, right? And all their other evidence for early hominins points to ape-like creatures, pre-human, etc., etc. They have all the fossils, all of their other evidence points to that. They have no evidence whatsoever for modern humans living in that time. Now let me ask you, what conclusion do you think they will draw once they date the volcanic ash? Are they going to draw the conclusion that because these footprints look vaguely human, they belong to modern humans? Or do you think they'll draw the conclusion that because these footprints look vaguely human, they belong to a vaguely human species that lived at the same time as the volcanic ash deposits test out at? Which is the more sensible conclusion? Based on all the other anthropological evidence, John, which is the more likely scenario? Which is the scenario that you should consider to be the most simple and therefore the most likely to be true?
We are part of God's creation.
Oh, right. The most simple answer is a magical, omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent, omnibenevolent, invisible, intangible, yet somehow also white-bearded old man who lives outside of time and created us all but wrote a book to make it look like he doesn't actually exist because most of it is wrong, and planted a bunch of evidence to demonstrate beyond a reasonable doubt that his book is wrong. Of course. That's the simpler answer. That one makes the least assumptions of any of them.
Now, whenever you see an article in a magazine, or in a newspaper especially, that has something to talk about the evolution from apes, prepare yourself for some very interesting reading and even some good laughs.
Now there I have to agree with you. Cheap-ass magazines and newspapers are shit reading when you're looking for good science.
I bought this magazine just a couple years ago. It says, How Apes Became Human.
Yeah, you know what else it says? Time. You know what it doesn't say? Peer-reviewed scientific journal.
Now, I'm also an auto mechanic, an automotive technician.
Greetings, chemist, scientist, auto mechanic, automotive tentatechnician John Morris Pendleton.
And when I buy a manual that says how alternators work, how carburetors work, how brakes work, and things of this nature, how a starter is repaired, I expect it to tell me in detail how these things work, how to repair them, how to make them function correctly.
So you wouldn't buy a 10-year-old's guide to fixing engines, which is what Time magazine is to a peer-reviewed scientific journal? Is that what you're saying? That's interesting. It's funny that you're conforming to my expectations of any grown man. You've never done that before.
And so when I get a magazine from Time, which is backed up by millions of dollars, hundreds if not thousands of people of expertise in so many areas of knowledge, and they say that in the title of this magazine, How Apes Became Human, I want them to tell me how it happened.
In a 10-page article designed for the casual reader, you want Time magazine to explain to you thousands upon thousands of pages worth of scientific research? What the fuck is wrong with your head?
A handful of bones in Ethiopia brings scientists tantalizing close to the time 6 million years ago when our most ancient ancestors took their first upright steps. Wow, isn't that fantastic? A handful of bones. Now, as I read through this article, and as you read through your article, you'll find things like this. We're not sure how. There are different opinions. It's not entirely clear. We believe, perhaps, it is generally believed, things of this nature. That's not science. They're guessing. They're feeling around.
Jesus fuck. Let's go back a few steps, shall we?
Appears to be, perhaps, reconstruction. It is thought. Reconstruct, it's supposed. Approximately, reconstruction. We do not have very precise dates. We think, we calculate. Now, the real key to this whole thing was this one toe bone proves the creature walked on 2 legs. One bone. Now, if you pay attention to these articles, as I say it, they always shoot themselves in the foot. They always give it away that they really don't know what they're talking about. Because as the article went on, they said that this one toe bone was found 10 miles away from the handful of bones that proved that the creature was. But obviously it was from the same creature.
By now the audience should be well aware that John is simply lying here. I will read you the paragraph in question, and I will link you to the article in question. It begins, "In the case of Ardipithecus, says Donald Johansen, professor of anthropology and director of the Institute of Human Origins at Arizona State University, and the man who discovered Lucy back in 1974, when you put 5.5 million-year-old fossils together with 4.4 million-year-old ones as members of the same species, you're not taking into consideration that these could be twigs on a tree. Everything's been forced into a straight line. Beyond that, he's dubious about categorizing the 5.2 million-year-old toe bone. And folks, I'll stop here, and here is where it gets interesting, because this is the part that John quote-mined by putting a tiny little square around the words that he wanted us to see, while cutting out everything else. Beyond that, he's dubious about categorizing the 5.2 million year old toe bone with the rest of the fossils. Not only is it separated in time by several 100,000 years, but it was also found some 10 miles away from the rest. So what this is saying is, this person they're talking to, directly in the article, is skeptical of the reliability of the evidence that they've found, and is stating such. So Time is not making a claim that this is an absolute truth. Time is talking to people who are saying, listen, it's kind of unlikely that this is true, or at least there are some serious problems with it that we have to look at. God damn it, I mean, these creationists are fucking idiots. You know they're reading these articles, and they're just lying about it, and they think that you, my audience, they think that you are stupid enough to believe them. Don't be that stupid.
I mean, can anything be more ridiculous?
No, it really fucking well couldn't be more ridiculous. And you know what? I'm going to address my audience here for a minute. I don't watch these videos before I do this. I record everything as I go through the video. I watch it little bit by little bit. And this video started out as just a light-hearted mockery of this guy because he's fun. You know, he serves as a good proxy for your typical creationist, but he's entertaining. I mean, he's stupid enough and harmless seeming enough that he's kind of fun to deal with. And that's why I use him. He's dumb enough that he says enough stupid things that I can make fun of him on a regular basis for them to keep the video entertaining even though it's a half hour long. But honestly, it's been really hard to keep this video lighthearted like I wanted it to be, and I apologize for that. Maybe you're sitting there eating your dinner, maybe you just wanted a little lighthearted creationist ponage to while the time away. And I'm sorry, this has got really serious because this guy has really pissed me off. Because he's exemplified the typical creationist, the lying, deceitful, useless prick. The kind who does nobody any good, the kind who only serves to erode our society and make us all fucking retards. And I'm sick of this shit. So I'm sorry. I apologize to my audience. I'm sorry. I'll keep going, and I'll try and keep it a little lighter from this point on.
Now, this diagram, as you can see, is with the intent of showing us the evolution of the different species. These are all drawings, but this has an effect upon, I believe, all of us. Some of us more, some of us less. But we have this idea because of skin color, of slanted eyes that the Orientals have.
I don't think calling them the Orientals is going to win you any friends, John.
Different kinds of hair, different bone structure, different facial features, that we have this idea that there's different races. Nothing of the sort. It's just all part of the one species, the one race, the human race.
I think you just redeemed yourself from your Orientals comment. Very good. I couldn't agree more. Now, John goes on for a long time describing a situation where a black man received a white man's kidney and is functioning perfectly fine as a refutation of the concept of racism. I don't think we need to listen to that because I'm quite sure that we're all in agreement here. And if we're not, fuck off.
Of the many quotes that we could give in closing, I like this one from Dr. Lyle Watson. He says, "The fossils that decorate our family tree are so scarce that there are still more scientists than specimens."
How could anyone be surprised that there are more scientists than specimens?
The remarkable fact is that all the physical evidence that we have for human evolution can still be placed with room to spare inside a single coffin.
At this point, if there's still anybody watching this video, I would like to call upon my YouTube friends to help me out with finding this piece of documentation because I've done a search for this quote. It is from Science Digest, Volume 90, May 1982, page 44. And this quote is repeated ad nauseum on creationist websites, but it's not repeated anywhere on real websites. Go figure. So what I would like to do is do the same thing as I did with my first Hello, I'm a Scientist video, where I went and found the article in question in the actual physical paper, in this case magazine. Also, I would like to find the Time magazine that John was talking about earlier. So if anyone can help me out with finding either of those, that would be wonderful. If you can point me to somewhere online where I can buy them, great. If you can point me to somewhere online where I can download them, also great. Either way, I want to see these quotes in full context. Now, the issue of time is not so important because I'm sure that I can order a back issue if I need to. Plus, I have the full article available online on Time's website. So that's fine. But this Science Digest from 1982 article, I don't have available to me immediately online, so I'm going to need some help finding that. So if anyone wants me to look at the actual source for this quote, wonderful. I can say right now, though, that it's complete horseshit, because even in 1982, I'm pretty sure that we had more specimens than that.
There's 4 questions in life everyone needs to answer. Answer as soon as possible. Answer correctly, because it'll give an entire direction to your life. And that is, who am I? Where did I come from? Why am I here? Where will I go after I die? Let's take the 2 belief systems. Let's take evolution and creation. According to evolution, who am I? I am about 210 pounds of water and chemical substances.
Ladies and gentlemen, step right up. Come one, come all. Only 10 cents to see the bizarre freak of nature. The man who never learned the difference between the words who and what.
Where did I come from? I came from an explosion that happened about 20 billion years ago.
If you're going to describe it like that, I'll describe your creation myth like this. I got poofed into existence by some dude.
Why am I here? I don't have the faintest idea.
Sucks to be you. You'd think you could have figured that out by now. I can suggest something, though, to spread lies and superstition. That'd be a good one. You make your own reasons for being here. If you don't want to be here, kill yourself. Nobody's going to miss you.
Where will I go after I die? To become part of the other water and chemicals that make up this earth.
Again, back to the creation version with the same attitude. Where do I go after I die? Go sit on a cloud somewhere.
What lousy answers.
No kidding. You could have done a whole lot better at that. Go read some Sagan or something, dude.
What lousy motivation. To even exist, to keep on living, to keep on trying to get better.
You really don't seem to be trying too hard to get better, John, but as far as the motivation to keep on living, kill yourself.
Let's go to the side of creation. According to creation, who am I? I'm an important person, made in the image and likeness of my Creator.
You're an abject slave who has to grovel and snivel your whole fucking life, and you'll probably burn anyway. Born worthless, die worthless. And you can't make your own worth for yourself either. You are a worthless piece of shit on the sole of God's shoe. Doesn't that make you feel nice? Hey, if we're playing this game, John, I'm not going to be nice about it.
Where did I come from? I came from a loving, intelligent creation.
A psychopathic demon god decided he wanted to fuck around with some dirt.
Why am I here? To know, love, serve, and obey, trust my Creator and Savior, Jesus Christ.
To be a slave, and to teach my kids to be slaves too. And to die without ever accomplishing anything other than setting back the course of human advancement, and possibly contributing to the downfall of the entire human species, as we descend into ignorance, and fail to achieve the absolute necessity of getting off this planet and colonizing other worlds before we are destroyed, or we destroy ourselves.
Where will I go after I die? Because Jesus Christ lives in my life, I'm going to be with Him forever.
Because Jesus Christ lives in your life, you will waste your life worshipping a non-existent entity. And when you die, you'll rot in the ground like the rest of us. But before you die, you'll be hoping, greedily, selfishly, and with a genuine immorality and just purely disgusting nature, that you are given a gift of eternal life and joy and peace, and that everyone like me burns eternally for no crime whatsoever, despite the fact that we tried to be good people while we were alive and attempted to aid the world in the best way that we knew how. You are fucking slime. As far as I'm concerned, you're worthless. You're a sick fuck. You need help. Get some de-brainwashing therapy.
You know, when I was studying at the university, my major was chemistry. I had a scholarship for 4 years at the university. And my whole goal was to get a degree in chemistry. I just loved the sciences, loved learning about these things. And yet I have to admit, too, that I got involved in drinking, theft, foul language, wrong use of sex, and just plain selfish, proud person. Now, every Sunday I would go to church. I would never miss a Sunday for church. I always believed in the religious belief that I was brought up with. But still I had all these sins that were plaguing my life. My sophomore year, life continued as I already mentioned, but something happened on a special Monday, and then we had some religious speakers come into my fraternity. Now when I heard that, I said to myself, I'm not going to that. The president of our house said, if anybody doesn't go to this meeting, you'll have a house fine. I said, okay, I'll go to that meeting. But I very much believed in my religion, even though my religion could not change me. But these fellows about my age, I was 19 years old, told about how their lives used to be, how they came to know Jesus Christ, and how Jesus Christ had changed their lives. Well, this was really unusual to me because I believed in God, I believed in Jesus Christ, but my life was going from bad to worse. The last man gave a talk from the Bible, and I didn't really follow anything that he said until the end when he quoted this verse from John 1:12 that says, "But to as many receive him, Jesus Christ, to them he gives the power to become the children of God, even to those that believe on his name." Well, I reasoned this way. You'll have to forgive me if this sounds bad, but I thought I'm going to do an experiment with Jesus Christ. I'm going to see if he can change my life because I cannot change it. And so I prayed a prayer something like this. I said, "God, I have sinned against you. Jesus, come into my heart. Forgive my sins. Take control of my life. Make me be the person that you want me to be. Help me to know you and to live with your power. Amen." And I began to trust that what Jesus said was true, that he now lived within inside me. From that day forward, I never got drunk once again. In 2 weeks, he changed my vocabulary drastically for the better. And after 4 weeks, he freed me of 4 years of the wrong use of sex.
So that entire story was about you used to drink and have sex, but you didn't like it because your mommy and daddy said it was bad, and so you stopped. That's the story. Oh my God, you're a fucking loser.
See you soon. God bless you.
Suck my dick.